So I'm just going to say a little bit for Nichelle, who's not here. Nichelle, we just went around the room and did a little like role playing for booth, for when someone comes into your booth, and we just checked in with the idea, like I just checked in with everyone to make sure that their supplies are ordered. So starting this point on is the informative part of the presentation. We're going to start with, I'm going to share my screen, and if you guys want to turn your cameras off, you can. I won't make you stay in, you know, not everybody loves to see their face on the side of their computer all the time. We're going to start with the booth setup presentation. And so if you have any questions, just interrupt, because like I think I told you guys this before, I have two screens, and I'm going to share my screen that's over, like I'm going to be looking away from you, so I won't see you if you're like, if your hand is up. So if anybody has a question, just unmute and interrupt me and we'll get going, because we've got a lot to cover. All right, let me open it up and share my screen. Okay. Now, you guys should all be seeing just like me going into full screen mode, and it should just have our mission statement. Is that what you're seeing? Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about setting up your booth. So what Handmade Arcade is going to do for everybody, we're going to buy, and you don't have to use it, but I'm going to just buy them and keep them in our supplies for something that we have. We're going to buy tablecloths for all of your tables, because buying a tablecloth that's big enough to cover the size of the table, that's actually can be a little bit expensive. And so like you can choose to bring your own tablecloth. You can use a bed sheet that works, like a single, like a twin size bed sheet, or like a piece of fabric yardage. But I'm going to buy black tablecloths for everyone as like a base, and you can put your stuff on top of it, or you can not use it, whatever. But I didn't want you to have to, like, I remember when I started, this is like, so, you know, like there's like weird like expenses you don't think about. I remember when I started out, and it was like right before the event, I was like, oh, I need a tablecloth. And when I went out to try and find one that was big enough, I was like, it was more expensive than I like had at the time. So I'm going to make sure that we have tablecloths for you, but you can customize it however you want. So you're all gonna, and if I went over this last time, I apologize. I just feel like we need to go over some things out like a couple of times. You're all gonna have a 10-foot by 10-foot booth space. So when you're planning out your space, you can plan out for that. Like if you want to do a mock setup at home, which I always recommend newer makers do, everyone is going to have one 8-foot by 2.5-foot table, but you can bring other tables. So if you have a pop-up table and you want to pull your table back and like make like an L shape or a U shape, or set things up in a different way, you can do whatever you want. So, but you will be provided with a table. You don't have to bring anything extra, but if you have that something extra you want to bring, when I was selling, I would always bring like one of those like a pop-up table that you like unfold and it would go up a little bit higher, and I would like sort of make an L. Everyone will have 2 chairs in their booth space, so you can take a break. And if you bring a friend or a family member to help you, which I really, really, really recommend you do, you can take breaks, take a seat. You don't have to use our table and chairs, but we recommend it. It makes it easier for you. A lot of makers, more professional makers, have major setups and they don't want our stuff. So what are you allowed to bring to Handmade Arcade? You're allowed to bring anything you want, but remember, you have to tear it up and set it down. Like you can't, like, so if you bring some crazy big setup, remember, you only have so much time to set up and so much time to tear down. This is not really something I'm concerned about for the youth maker group. This is something that I share usually with like more professional makers, because invariably every year there is at least one maker who is like taking their time, breaking down their giant booth setup at the end of the night. And we've got to get out of that room by a certain time. And so I just always try to, like, you know, hit that nail a couple of times. And also, like, this is important, like, figure out how you're going to get everything to Handmade Arcade. If you're new, like if you're getting a ride with, you know, if your family member's bringing you down, make sure everything fits in the car. If a friend is bringing you down, like make sure that whatever you're bringing fits in their car. And electricity and end caps doesn't pertain to you guys. You won't, that's just an extra fee for makers. You will not have electricity in your booths. We have to pay to turn on every single plug. It's ridiculous, and it gets really expensive really fast. but you will be set up very close to the welcome table, which will have electricity. So if for whatever reason you need to like recharge your cell phone or plug something in, you'll have access to our plugs. We'll talk about that a little later. Okay, so this is just like some examples of like backdrops and signs. So see, do you see right here, this is my setup, this one down here, that when I used to sell, this is from like 2019. Look at how pathetic it is. So sad. It's so little. Like my friend Sarah was selling for me. She's back there like, oh, it's so sad, little. But it was colorful and people would come up to me because I, like I chose purposefully a white tablecloth. Actually, this is from 2018. A white tablecloth because my aprons are really colorful and it sort of popped on there. So like I didn't have I never have had a backdrop, and I've never felt like I needed one for my purposes because I'm not a professional maker. I'm just a hobbyist who runs the event, and I don't even make anymore. So that's just sort of an example of like a real low key setup, which I think is totally fine, absolutely fine for you guys. Here's an example of, this is a maker. She and her husband make these really cool coasters out of old vinyl records. And I love their setup, like a lot of it I love. They take the album covers, they built this like backdrop to have the album covers. What I think doesn't work here is that even though this yardage, this like fabric that they're using is so cool and colorful and big, you can't see their product. Like you'd have to really go up to their booth to see what's going on there because it clashes too much. So like think about that when you're doing your setup. Like make sure that what people are drawn into is your product and not looking at like a tablecloth that they can't see it on. So like that's like why I use this picture, and it makes me sad because I really like this couple. They're wonderful people. Yes, Val.
Just real quick, especially for like heaven, if your packaging is very consistent, think about complementary colors, things that would go with your packaging that innately we're drawn to as a complementary color by the color wheel. So try to think about that as well. Or if you do very colorful things like Trisha's saying, what's a very nice neutral color that doesn't, it pops your product. So like a gray, a white, a tan, something like that. So keep that in mind.
I am going to buy black tablecloths, but Heaven, if you're using black containers, which you are, we do have gray tablecloths, so you can take one of those instead. Like you don't have to use the black one. So, so this is an example. These are examples of people who like, I think do a good color combination. So, and so she uses like, so what you guys will have is like a black tablecloth, but you can see she took something colorful that matches her logo and put it over it so that it sort of just provides more color. And then she uses like vertical space here. And so I don't think that you guys as youth makers need to have like a sign made in the background. Like it's not something you have to have. If you have time and capability, you don't have to purchase or like spend money on having one printed. You can see that this is cut out felt, and then she cut out the letters, and she just used like interfacing and fused them onto there. So like you can do something like that, like make a banner like that. You can, however you want to do, but I do think it's a good idea to have somewhere your company name so that people can, if they come up to your booth, they can be like, well, that was the Scrunch Bunch. I want to make sure that like I go back there, and then because then it's easier for them to find you if they like circle back around. So it doesn't have, she's just using wood here. It doesn't have to be up above you. It can be just like you can pin it to the front of your tablecloth. And this woman here, Malagueta, this is just an oversized, and you can do this small too, like you can do a couple of them and make them small, but it's just an embroidery hoop, and she just put fabric in it and then used, I don't know if she had this printed with her logo on it, but for the show and sell, I showed this to one of the show and sell makers, and she did the same thing. She just got a piece of fabric, and then she got, she just like got colorful other different colors of fabric again, and like cut out her logo using the colorful fabric and just sort of like handmade a sign that was there for her. The only thing I would recommend not doing is leaning it along the ground like this. Like if you have a sign that you lean, like don't lean it along the ground for two reasons. People won't see it as much. Like they'll see this if they come up to your table, like this one here. But if you like have something leaning against your table, it won't get seen. and it'll get knocked over and stepped on and ruined. So I recommend not doing anything that's going to lean at your table where the makers are going to have access to it. These are just some more examples of like, see, like you can see this, this is crochet. They do crochet, they stuffed animals. I don't think they're participating this year, but you can see because their stuff is so colorful, they use the, the black tablecloth and their stuff really pops. And they have like a really minimal like thing. They have like a little bit of shelves here for things to have some height. It's not, and they have like a crate here that they did to have a little bit of height. It's not something that's like not out of scope of what I think could be done. And then you can see here, like for smaller items, they have just probably a bowl from their house that they've thrown some smaller items in. This guy is an illustrator and he does this professionally. So he obviously had a big backdrop made of his characters in his books that he makes. So like that is not something I think you guys should be doing, because that I have no idea how much that cost him, but don't do that. You don't need to do that. So this is no one is making t-shirts, but this picture is just an example of how you could make a t-shirt setup with your with PVC pipe, but I don't think that this is something you need to worry about, but it's just sort of another example. Here is another maker who does fabric dyeing, and she just has a rack there. And so what she has out is, so you can see she has like everything sort of grouped, a selection of her items. Because she does fabric dyeing, they're all a little bit different. So she's got a little bit of a selection, and she probably has different sizes for like each color grouping. So people can, without having to ask you too much, they can take the size, hold it up to them, hold it up to their, if they're with their kid or their friend that they want to buy it for, so that they have a good idea of like if you're doing sizes. The one thing about this booth that I think works against this maker is it's so busy that it's hard to see stuff. So like while this is a good idea, I think over here she might have almost a little bit too much out. So like sometimes you want to think about that. Like you don't want to overwhelm the people that are coming to shop. You want to have a little bit of like a less is more situation. So put like a part of your inventory out. You don't have to put all of it out, and then as things sell, you can replenish. So like you're going to want to bring your stuff in like sort of easy to access way, like that you can keep it under your table. That's another reason why it's a good idea. We want to have tablecloths that drape all the way to the floor, because then you can slide stuff underneath your table and use it as like an extra storage space for extra inventory. This is an example of somebody who just used some simple like crates that they probably bought at like a hobby store, and use that for like vertical height. And then just like took this, it looks to me like a cutting board, and that she brought here, and look, she's got a rolling pin. So this is an example of like how you can just get things from around your house to display your items. Like you don't necessarily have to invest in mannequins or even these display items like that, but like there's a basket, there's a rolling pin for bracelets. This is a tray, but like you could even like use an old ice tray to put if you have like little earrings in there. And just like ways to sort of like creatively think about stuff that you already have at home that you can use for your display item without spending anything. If anyone is making like something specific that you think would like really need, say like this sort of display item, like a necklace stand thing, or like a little necklace stand, let me know, because one of the things that I'm going to start doing is, as we have Youth Maker money, we have a little bit over, I'm going to kind of start buying display supply items that you guys can borrow for the day. So if there's anything like you're like, oh, I really want to buy this, but I didn't do it with my budget and I didn't think about it, let me know about that, A. And B, I also have like at my fingertips a world of professional makers who have display stuff that they either don't use anymore or they are not going to be using. So like I can put a call out and be like, hey guys, the youth makers need display items. Does anybody have X, Y, or Z? So think about that. And like you don't have to like think like there's like no deadline for that. Like as long as you let me know, I want to say like by early November, like what you think you might want or need. Like I'm not going to promise I can get you anything, but I'm trying really hard to get display items for you. Bless you, Val. I saw you sneeze there. This is another example of something that like, I think like, so Woven Spectrums makes like these beautiful knitted stuff, but then she put this like, that blanket there, which I think like just makes it confuse. It's just like too many patterns and too much color and too much texture. I feel like she would have done better if she had just kept the brown there. And then this is just like a huge maker pet peeve of mine, which you guys can totally like just ignore what I'm about to say because you're not going to really be in control of it. But if you can, don't try to iron or throw it won't really pertain to you since you're going to be getting tablecloths from us. But before you come to Handmade Arcade, I always think you should put your tablecloth in like the steam cycle of your dryer or something and like get it so it's not quite so wrinkled, because then it looks a little more professional and nice. And when you set that up, also we have a steamer that we can always borrow, and I make every year one of our volunteers steams everything for me. It's the worst job, but but they do it because it makes us look more professional. This is just another example of somebody who crochets and just uses so what she does, which I think is smart, these are like crates that she uses. She brings all of her stuff in the crates. Like she packs all of her stuff up in the crates, uses that as her transportation method, brings it to the event, unpacks it, uses it as her setup display. So like, when you're packing your stuff up, you can think about it like that. Another way to pack your stuff up is like, you don't necessarily have to go invest in bins or anything like that. The way I've always brought my stuff to Handmade Arcade is I have 2 giant rolly suitcases that I've been able to fold my stuff up in. And one has my products in it and one usually has my display items in it. And I've always like brought that in because then I can just wheel it to my table and it's nice and easy. And I don't have to like worry about like waiting for when you come to Handmade Arcade to set up we will have people there to help you, but if you can get your stuff to your table on your own without waiting for the Teamsters to help you, you'll have more time to set up.
I just want to mention that this is Terry, who I believe is someone's mentor.
Oh yeah, this is Terry. This is one of your, yes, she's great. This is one of your mentors. And then this is just another example of how people like use like these crates that they pack things in, and then they put their t-shirts on the top to be seen. So this is like a really sleek display that like you guys do not need to worry about. Like you're not ready for it. But this is actually like a pretty inexpensive stand-up wall display that you can get at Home Depot for like $35. But again, like this is not something I don't want you guys like spending at your own money on this, but this is just an example of, I think, just like a very neat display and well laid out. Like she doesn't have a lot of stuff out. She has a ton more behind her table, but she just has a few things out so that people can see it easily. And she's got like business card here for people to be able to contact her after the event.
Trisha, sorry, I keep interrupting you. I might have access to that grid wall that someone can borrow if you need to.
Okay, great. So if you want to try a grid wall, put it on the list, and because Sam has access to some stuff from the store where she works. That's actually where I was going to hit up Sam for some of those jewelry things, because I know Kate has a whole bunch down in the basement, doesn't she?
Yeah, we have a whole room of display stuff that doesn't always get used. So yeah, we'll definitely work with everybody.
Great. So these are just examples of 2 like super professional makers who have set up like these guys. Everyday Balloons started off one year looking like this, like they started off looking like that, and now they've been doing this for so long. This is what they have. So like this is like maker growth. This is just an example of major maker growth, and this is just another example of like how to use your space as a tiny store. But this is not really. This is another example too, though, of like there's like a little tiny ladder that they have here that they've used. Like a lot of people use ladders for their display, but I also like the way that they have their name of their business just like here, and they've sort of decorated their table with just like, you can tell that that's almost like you can see the edges. It's just like raw edges. It could even just be like torn fabric, just to give a little like decoration to their table. This is an example of just 2 more examples of tiny stores. And this is something that I like that makers do, that again, like this is, just 2 old ladders, but that's going to be hard for you guys because that's heavy and will require a lot. setup. But there, you know, she just, like you can see here, she's got a cork board that she has leaning up against something, and she just probably has her earrings pinned on there, like, you know, just like with a tack. So if you have like an old cork board, or that, you know, you can take off your wall. I've done that before with my I have my daughters used to have cork boards in their craft room, and I took them down when they stopped being little and doing crafts, and put hinges on them and made like a folded thing that I could then like stick pins in and use for a display item, which actually I don't use anymore. So if one of you wanted to borrow it, you can. So this is just a display. This is Matt. He's like been doing this a long time. He's got racks for his things, but this is like kind of something that I like to show people not to do. This really bugs me every time I see this picture, because this maker on the other side of him, this is an example of being like nice, a good crafty neighbor. On the other side of him hung these pictures on the back side of her display, making it almost look like they belong to Matt's store, which causes confusion. And I feel like Matt asked me to ask her to take them down. And I think that he either did, I'm pretty sure he did, like the more I like look at this picture and talk about it, or I saw it later in the day and I was like, you should have told me about that. I would have asked them to take that down. But like, that's just sort of a display little thing there. And this is another example of a maker who started off like, you know, this is like Kim Fox. She started off many years ago. 2011 was her first year with Handmade Arcade, 10 years ago. And she just did printed stuff, and she had a great show. And all she did was cover her paper, this actually I thought was really smart. She covered her table with brown paper, and then she's an illustrator, and she's got really cool handwriting. And so she wrote on her paper all of her, like, all you can see like that, those are her prices and things like that. But she also has a sign here, and this is like another thing that I would recommend. Like you can see all of the makers have like little tiny framed signs. Well, most of them do, like here, that with their prices. So make sure all of your items are clearly marked price wise. If it's just like, even if you just get a piece of cardboard, handwrite $15 and then safety pin it to your item, that's perfect. Or you can get those little craft, you can get like a pack of those craft tags that have like the little ties on them. They're like really cheap, and you get like 100 plus of them, like at Walmart. Just write your price on them and attach them to everything. Or get a little sticker if you can't attach it like that, because a lot of people or have your prices clearly marked, because people are more likely to buy if like you're busy with someone else and they want to know what a price is, and then you're talking to someone for a really long time, they might be like, oh, I want to keep looking, I don't want to wait to get her attention to find out what this price is. But if they can pick it up and be like, oh, this is $15, I'm gonna buy it, then they're more likely to wait and purchase it from you.
Also, you could have a light up billboard in the back of your booth saying what your prices are, and people are still dingbats and will ask you or not read at all.
Yeah.
So do it, but it's not life or death. They'll still be dumb.
Yeah.
Always,
always remember that people are lazy and don't want to think. And I feel like it's just getting worse and worse the longer the pandemic goes on. So yeah, you're right, Sam. You could have like a flashing light back here with like all t-shirts $20, and somebody would still ask you. So, but yeah. So these are just some other examples. This is a painter. This is his easel he brought from home, and then he hung his little tiny paintings on it. This person made Christmas ornaments, so they brought like a small Christmas tree from home to hang their Christmas ornaments on. This is like a metal, this display, I wish I had a better picture of it, but it's like basically like an old metal circle that they got somewhere, and they drilled holes in it, and then maybe they got it at Construction Junction or somewhere. But it's basically like a piece of scrap metal that is formed into like a circle that they made a platform out of, and then they drilled holes in it and just stuck like I don't know, some kind of piping in there, and then they hung their earrings on it. So like, these are just like ideas for inspiration. Like, please don't go nuts about your display. Like, that's not like the purpose. The purpose is for you guys to have exposure and have your products there. But like, I just wanted to give you like, just like some visual reference for display items. This person just uses like, they just like, it's kind of like the hinge idea. They just got these pegboards, it almost looks like they got them from Construction Junction because they look like they've used them a long time, and they put little hinges on them and made like a little, and that's like easy to fold up and take home. And then this maker, I love this maker. She prints cat fabric, and she makes underpants out of them. So she has these like fun, colorful, you can see she just has like, she probably has like the boxes that she brings her stuff in underneath here to give her height. And she's got her prices here, and she's got these colorful little like play suitcases filled with her work. And it's just a way like to show, like you can put stuff like in the front of your table lower, and then if you want to like drape your material over like your boxes that you brought things in to give height to, like, that way you have height to your table, and then people can see more of your display. Yes, Val.
Going on to your height comment, just to keep in mind as well, there will be times where there will be so many people in your booth, the people in the back can't really see what's at hip level or table level. So that's why thinking about a little bit of elevation at least helps those people who might be farther back to at least pre-see what you're selling. So by the time they get up, they can then really look at what you might have. So just think about that as well.
Yeah. Also, we are doing timed ticketing this year. So like we're trying to control the crowd a little bit better because of COVID. So I'm hopeful that we won't find ourselves in a situation where we have in the past, where it's been like, you've been in your booth and it's been really crowded, where it's more spread out. But yeah, that is a really good point, because if somebody, even if like there's like 2 or 3 people in your booth, like with people being, like more cautious right now, they might not want what?
People are pre-selling or pre-shopping in their
Yeah,
mind, and
right.
they'll just do like a quick walk by. If there's a bunch of people at your table level, if they can at least pre-walk by and look and see what you have, then they notate it, and then they'll come back around, because a lot of people will do a pre-walkthrough before they do their shopping.
Yeah, good point. So this is just like an idea. I'm going to share this presentation with you guys so you can take a better, like, closer look at it, and so you don't have to like memorize any of this. But thinking outside the box, like using suitcases or magazine racks, one of the things I bring from home is my drying rack. When I hang things on it. And the only thing about that, it's like a cheap drying rack from IKEA, so it like falls over a lot. So what I do at the Handmade Arcade is I zip tie the top of it to make sure that if someone bumps it, that it won't collapse on them. But you can you just get colorful bowls or ice cube trays, or like funky old like lamp planters or lamps or ashtrays. If you want to like add some splash of color a little bit, like if you want it, I'm just gonna keep pointing out to you, Heaven, because like your camera's on and I'm looking at you. But like if you use the black tablecloth because you want to have the yardage all the way to the floor, but your packaging are those little black tubs, you could bring like small pieces of fabric, like that are colorful, that you could like put on your table at like an angle, and then put your things, your products on it on top of it, so they'll like pop on top of the color.
Okay.
So, and you can use old shutters, pegboards, mesh boards. There's all sorts of things you can do for display purposes. But like, I really, really want to say it again, like, before you go out and stress out about your display stuff or think about it, like, look around on Pinterest, get some ideas, reach out to me, we're going to try to like get stuff together for you. So like, look around your house, see what you can use, you already have at home, and I don't want anybody spending like any of your own money on display stuff unless you really, really, really want something and I can't manage to get it for you. And you have the capability of getting it. But I want you to I want to work with you on this year to make sure that it all works. And if I end up bringing like a bunch of display stuff to Handmade Arcade that you are like, oh, I'd like to try using that, and you don't use it, it's totally not a big deal. I just put it back in the bin and back on the U-Haul truck, and it just stays out. It just goes back to the storage unit. So don't worry about that kind of stuff. So small details that make a big difference. If you've got t-shirts or smaller items, you can put them on the tabletop, but if you can hang up a sample or two, that's a good idea. You can always use tree branches or stumps from just outside, collect that to jazz up your table. You can use bricks. You can get a couple bricks and a board to kind of create shelving on your table without having too much money. If you're going to use any kind of like room divider screen, or if you're going to do any kind of like like old shutters or pegboards, just like make sure you have it set up in a way that it doesn't tip over, because like that can be like a midday disaster if somebody's like going to take something off of your pegboard and then it falls over, all your stuff falls everywhere. So that could be a mess. Don't worry about getting a backdrop. That's more for the professional makers. It's always a fun idea. You know, you can always like I think Val brought this up, like sort of plan out your, like sort of like make your display match your product. Like if you're, my dog is so annoying. If you make you know, like metal robots, you don't necessarily want to have like a really rustic display for it because it doesn't make sense. But if you're making like crocheted items and like more like, you know, handmade stuff, and you want to have like a more like homey rustic display, that totally makes sense. Okay. So if you can, I recommend doing a test of your booth display at home, but if you need stuff from us and you're borrowing it, you won't be able to do that. That's okay. But if you can do a test display, take pictures of it, so because it'll help you remember what you're doing. And even if you're like, so your table, like my dining room table, for example, is not the size of the table in dimension or length or whatever of the table that I'm going to get at Handmade Arcade. But still taking your stuff down to a flat surface that's kind of bigger and just messing around with it and getting a feel for what you might want to do with your table display isn't a bad idea to do beforehand. Limit how much product you display. You want to keep it clean and neat. Show a representation of your products, and then as you sell, refill. And if your stock depletes and you're running out of stuff, that's great. Just sort of like rearrange your tables so it doesn't look empty or bare. And then once you set your booth up and you're ready to go for Handmade Arcade, I always recommend take a picture of it for a couple of reasons. Number one, if you move on and you keep doing this stuff, like Jasmine does shows all the time and has like a great business going. If you take a picture of your booth, get a really good picture of your booth right before the show starts, you might need that to apply to other shows, because many shows ask for a booth display. Did you guys hear that? Like it sounded like an elephant above me. That is I don't know what's going on, but it's like my children like leaping out of bed. I think there's something wrong with them. Anyway, I digress. So literally sounds like there's an elephant above me. Their bed's above my office. They share the attic and it's above my office. So anyway, so take that picture, and then that way next time you go to do a show, you'll have that to refer back to if you liked it. And you'll have it for if you move in, you know, if you go to do other things, you'll have that as a display. Also, like you can use this as something for your college applications. Like, you know, I participated in this youth maker program, and if you go on to college, like that's something like you can use as like my daughter right now is applying to colleges. She wants to be a graphic designer, and she's applying to art schools, and she's never done Handmade Arcade. But if she had, that could be a portfolio piece for her to use to show like this is something really creative I did. Also, sidebar, I have written college recommendations for youth makers before. So when you get to that point, if you want to come back to me and say, hey, Trisha, I participated in the youth maker program and I'm applying to school, I will happily write you a letter of recommendation for you if it fits your needs, and you know it makes sense for me to do that. I've done that for other youth makers before who went to art. We're going to like art school. And I also was a point of reference for a youth maker from 2 years ago who applied for a scholarship, and I think she ended up getting it. They never called me about it, but she needed references of people, like professional, like artists, whatever that she worked with. And so she emailed me and asked me if she could use my information for it. And I was like, absolutely. So, and if you can, if this isn't something you have to do, this is more for professional makers, but like, you know, I recommend like, if you're walking around, if you take a break and you walk around and you like see a maker who makes stuff similar to you, introduce yourself, tell them that you're a youth maker, and like, you know, feel free to ask them questions if they're not really busy, because the one thing that's really great about the Handmade Arcade maker community from my perspective is that I feel like everybody is very nice and open and giving and willing to help, and they all really like that, at least the ones that I know well, which is over the years, I really feel like I know most of the makers pretty well, and I've never gone to a maker and said, hey, can you help with this? Or like, would you be interested in doing a presentation for the youth makers or doing this for that or whatever? I've never had anyone be a jerk about it. So like, you know, I think that it's not a bad idea to take a walk around and see what other, you know, professional makers are doing and ask them questions, if as long as they're not busy. Like I don't, you know, because it's like they're trying to, you know, make enough sales to like pay the rent through the lean months of January, February, March, when there's not a lot of shows. And then don't forget your sales pitch, like, right? Like we just did that. So that will help you guys, you know, just like what we did and you guys being ready for that, that helps a lot. This woman, Audra, I don't think she's doing shows anymore, but she's hilarious. And she always like dresses funny and she's got like just a great personality. And I feel like half the reason why she does so well is because she just, I mean, like, look at how much energy and joy she has. Another reason why this picture is a good one, we're going to talk about this in my next, in our next presentation about your money. So you can see that Audra is wearing, like, this is just like a small, she probably made it, apron on the side, and she's got her, you can see she's got her cell phone in there. You can see she's got her Square reader on her cell phone there, and she's probably got all her cash right there on her, which is really a smart way to handle your money right then and there, so you have it with you. But she also does that because she sets her booth up in a way that she doesn't actually, she just like sort of has these standing things all around in her space and doesn't really have like a table set up. But this is a smart thing to do, and we're going to talk about that in a few minutes. So we talked about the sales pitch, you know, and if somebody's walking by and it's like looks at you, like looks at your booth, but doesn't necessarily stop, if you're and you don't have anyone there and you catch their eye, say hello. It's like, hey, how are you? And they might come over and talk to you, and then that could turn into a sale. So I'm not going to go over these final tips because I'm going to send this to you and you can read it. And I don't want to, I hate it when people read slides to me, so I'm not going to do it. But this is just has some like just some final pricing tips. If you're making something special, like you might want to put like Hannah, for example, you're making those stuffed animals, I think out of like the fuzzy socks. You might want to put on what like that they're made from, like, you know, the fuzzy, you know, like something about like how you came up with the idea for your fuzzy sock animals.
Or even upcycling. People really like the word repurposed, reused, upcycling, something like that, to show that you're environmentally friendly. Yeah. As well. Yeah, that's yes. Yeah, exactly. So, and then if you're selling something that's like I'm going to go back to you, Hannah, because I know that you make those scrunchies, and I don't know if you're going to do this or not, but like, say you want to sell your scrunchies for like, I don't know, $6 for one scrunchie, but then you can buy one scrunchie for $6, but you get two for 10. And then people are like, oh, 2 for 10. And really, like, you know, that's a deal. And people love a deal. They love a set. So like, if you have something like that, that's small, or, you know, that you can like group together for like, with where it makes the customer think that they're really getting a deal by saving like $2 or $3, do it, because you might sell more as a set, and then will help, you know, with some sales. Just a thought. The what to bring, I have a what to bring checklist that I will send to you, and it literally is a checklist, so you can check it all off. You don't necessarily need to buy packaging bags for your stuff. A lot of people bring bags. That's an expense. Unless you really want to have it, I don't want to, like, that's another thing I wouldn't recommend you guys go ahead and do. We have a bunch of bags. I mistakenly ordered the wrong size brown bags one year, and I've got a ton of bags. So I will definitely like bring those that day. And if you want to take them and use them for your product, you can. And I also want to say that, like, if you want to have like a business card or any kind of promotional material on your page, on your table, and you didn't plan for that in your $500, and you don't know how you're going to go ahead and do that, reach out to me, because we have some of our budget left, and we can figure out a way to get you like small business cards printed. It's really not very expensive. And whoever did get the Staples card to get that done, if you want to, since I'm going to get business cards printed for the other folks, if you want to reach out to me and like order something else to like
counterbalance that money, like, let me know. I just can't remember which one of you did that. That was a really smart thing to do. But let me know what you want to do about business cards, and we'll get those ordered. I'll send an email out about that soon. It doesn't take long at all to do that. We do them through Vistaprint, and you can get a couple hundred for not very much money. So we will do that. More, if you're selling jewelry, it does help to bring a mirror. So if you've got like a freestanding makeup mirror or something like that, bring that. This is the most important part right here. Like, your self-care at Handmade Arcade is important. Wear comfortable shoes. You're going to want to wear like sneakers, or like, I mean, I usually wear like my one pair of boots. They're really comfortable. And I bring my sneakers, because if my feet start to hurt, I find if I swap out my shoes in the middle of the day, it helps. Make sure you bring food and snacks and pack a lunch. We're going to have water there for you. And we will have like a little care package of snacks for you guys, but you're going to need more than what we give you. And the convention center is going to have its food stand open. It's going to be grab and go. And I don't know what it's going to be this year because of COVID. So I don't have that worked out yet. So I recommend like just pack stuff, like pack energy bars or pack a couple sandwiches. Bring more food than you think you're going to need, because like, just don't eat it, take it home and eat it the next day. Or, because then there's nothing worse than being at your table stuck with a ton of people and being really hungry. When I would sell exclusively, I'd always make sure I had like almonds or something that was like really filling that I could just like grab and, have. I also have found that throughout COVID, I eat a lot of almonds because I'm like a little squirrel, and I can put the almonds behind my mask and chew them and not feel like I'm being gross, but it's what I do. Guess, Val.
Cough drops and chapstick.
Yes.
Other very good things. Oh, sorry, I didn't see that. But the cough drops.
Cough drops, yeah.
So much talking that it's gonna wear on you by the end of the day. So
that's a really good. I tell people to bring like mints and bring like aspirin or like ibuprofen, because I get a headache at Handmade Arcade from all the talking that I do, and I'm really loud. You guys saw what I was like this morning. So like, I'm like that is what I'm like. I get like my nervous energy kicks in hardcore Friday, and I just am like running at 120. And by the end of Handmade Arcade, I have a raging headache, and I usually have to take some ibuprofen. But bring like a little supply kit, like a little self-care kit. But yeah, cough drops is a really good one to have.
And if you forget anything, come and find us, because we probably have it for you. Don't sit there in pain or be super thirsty.
We definitely have at the welcome table, we have a big bin of stuff. Like, we have safety pins, we have pens, we'll have markers, we'll have needle and thread, we'll have everything. We have first aid kit, we will have ibuprofen. I always have mints and gum up there for the volunteers, especially now with masking, because you have to keep your mask on. It's totally mandatory. And if I walk past you and your nose is out, I am going to say, put your mask over your nose, because it's like one of my biggest pet peeves. So just prepare yourself for that. But if you eat something and then you can like, when you go to eat, like, we just sort of like, I think you should like take a step away from your, like, that's when you want to have a friend. Like, I'm going to like step back and like sit a little further away from my table and eat my lunch, and then come back. You're going to want to have gum or mint to put on, because then you don't have to like smell your own lunch breath all day, because that's gross. And if you can, there are garbage cans, but if you can, like, grab a garbage bag from home and bring it, because you will generate garbage, and it's nice to have some place to put it. Okay, so that's pretty much my spiel on setup. So maybe questions, or any of the planners, the committee members, is there anything that you think I forgot that you would want to bring up?
I just wanted to note that if you don't have someone helping you the day of, we are available to relieve you temporarily if you need to run to the restroom or go grab a drink or something to eat. We can't sell for you, but we can man your table to make sure everything is safe. So just keep that in mind in case you don't have a helper with you.
Yeah. And also, you can have as many helpers as you want. Like, when you do load in, if you bring one person or you bring 5 people, that's fine. Like, there's no limit to how many helpers you can have. We do have these prepaid like ticketed events, but if like you're like, you know, like your sister's coming in and she's going to help you and but she can't come, you guys are coming in separately and we're in the middle of like letting people into the prepaid, like any helper you have is allowed to like skip, basically like walk around the line and skip the line and just walk up to the front and say, I'm here to help. You know, Grace, she's a youth maker, and we'll be like, oh, hey, yeah, go ahead in. So make sure you do that. You know that, and that you don't have to, like, you can have different people come throughout the day for all of that. So, all right, so I'm going to go in. Yes.
Do we supply the internet access?
Okay, no, I'm going to talk about that in my next
okay.
presentation. Thank you, though. Good question. All right, so we're going to now talk about taking payments. And again, I'm going to share this presentation with you guys. Cash. People are going to want to pay cash. Hopefully, most people will do cards this year, and it'll be a little easier because of, transactions and things. Oh, another thing you should have at your table, and I think I'm going to put this on my list to provide for all of you guys. If you have a little hand sanitizer, I'm going to buy, never mind. I'm going to buy everybody a little hand sanitizer to have at their table. Because if you are doing cash transactions, you're going to want to like do a little hand sanitizer pump. Committee members, help me remember that I said I'm going to do that. I wrote it down, but we all know what that when I'm going to order PPE stuff too. Like I'm going to order masks and things like that for folks who show up without a mask to make sure they put it on. So I will get everybody a little small hand sanitizer for their table. Okay, for your cash. You always want to be able to make change. I think 50 and 1s, 50 and 10s, and 50 and 5s is a good cash drawer. It's really, really important that this does not stress you out. When I was in high school and if I were doing this, I wouldn't have had $150 to make change. My parents probably would have supported me and helped me, but I don't know for sure. So if you don't have the money to make a cash drawer, let me know. I will show up with a cash drawer for you. And then at the end of the day, before you leave, I'll just take that $150 back out of your money. So that way, and then it'll be an even sale. So like, don't stress about that. Like if you can have that and somebody in your, you've got that money and you can do it. So that way you don't have to worry about checking in with me when you check out. But if you can't, not a big deal. Handmade or Cake can provide your cash drawer for you. It's really important you keep your money on you. Wear a fanny pack or an apron with pockets. Have a secure box or a zipper pouch that you have behind your table. Never, ever, ever take your fanny pack off or take your apron off and put it on the table because money falls out of it. People, as much as I want to say our audience is filled with wonderful, good people, theft happens at Handmade Arcade. So be very careful with your money. Be very conscious of your money. If you are wearing it on your so when I wear mine in my apron pockets, as the day would go on, I would get, the wad would kind of get bigger. So I would crouch down behind my table, take it out, and then it would get like messy and like all, I'd go to pull out to make change and there'd be like money falling everywhere. So every once in a while I would just sort of like crouch down behind my table, pull my money out, straighten it up, organize it, take the big bills, put it in like a zipper pouch and like hide it under my table in a spot that only I knew where it was so that you can like keep it organized. You don't lose it too, because it's really easy to take a wad of money out of your like zipper pouch or whatever, or your pocket, and like somebody gave you a 50 and you didn't put it in there and it falls down to the ground. Like, so just be really careful of that. And never leave your cash on the table where it can be taken. Like, again, I can't stress this enough. I hate that this is the truth, but I have had reports of, people taking things from tables, and I've never heard anyone say that they had money stolen from them at Handmade Arcade, but I've definitely had people say that they've had products taken from their tables. So just, be conscious of that. All right, so I'm going to go through some ways to take credit cards. I know more about some than others. I did a lot of research, and Val helped me do some research, and some I feel are better than others because of simply the fact of the amount of information I was able to find. I felt like the Square Reader, I think personally is the best one to go with. You have to go to squareup.com. You can click business type and choose retail. It's sign up for a free account. when they run credit cards, they take a transaction fee. So why I like Square is right up front, they tell you exactly how much they're going to take from you. So it's very transparent. So like every time someone spends $10 and you run a credit card, they automatically take 2.6% of that $10 off of the, you know, the overall, the $10, and then to every transaction is like 10 cents. So I'm sorry, for in-person, or yeah, for an in-person. So if you're swiping cards, they have a free retail point of sale app that's easy to use on your phone, and it's easy to bring your inventory in on a computer. I haven't never used it. I've always done my inventory on my computer or my laptop because I find it to be easier for me, because I have a hard time seeing, my eyesight's so bad, I have a hard time seeing stuff on my phone. So I have to like get it all loaded, and then I can use it on my phone once it's loaded. And you get a free Square reader when you sign up for it. Most of our makers use Square, and a lot of the feedback that I've gotten over the years from makers is that they've used Square, and it was the most like user-friendly in terms of setup and things like that. So this is what you need to have a Square account. You need your full legal, well, first and foremost, you have to be 18. So this is where a parent or a guardian who is willing to support you in your business comes into play. And you need to do this as soon as possible. You're going to need to have a bank account, a US-based bank account, a full legal name, a social security number, and the date of birth and a home address. Now, if you don't have that, and you don't have anyone, and this has happened to us before with youth makers, if you don't have somebody who is willing or able to help you set up a Square account, let us know. We will help you. It's going to require a little bit more work on your end for the front side, because we're going to have to get your inventory information and load it into the Handmade Arcade Square account up front. But we will, and then you won't be able to download your money directly into your account like you would if you had your own Square account. You're going to have to wait for me, like the week after Handmade Arcade, to download all the transactions, run a report, figure out what your earnings were, and either send you a check, or if you don't have a bank account to get the check into, figure out a way to meet up with you to give you the cash of what you made. So let me know as soon as possible if you're going to need assistance with that, because the sooner we know, the better. Yes, Val.
When you guys set up your Square accounts, if your parents are helping you set it up, there is a way for you to put your business name, not your parents' name, just so you know. So like your buyers will see it not as your parents' name, they'll see it as your business name on their account, just so your parents or your guardians or your whoever's maybe helping you, the adult or guardian will know that their name will be associated with it to people who are purchasing from you.
Yeah, that's a good point. Thanks, Val. Also, like when you're going to set up this Square stuff, if you have questions about that kind of stuff, let us know. And I'll just point you to Val, because she knows a lot more about Square than I do, because she uses it more than I do.
And their customer support is some of the most amazing, understanding humans. You're not going to deal with a computer. Like if you call them, you can ask them the most basic, simple questions, and a human will speak with you. So
that's like the next thing I know about Square. They have all sorts of helpful videos like on their website. The reason why I like them is because they really want you to succeed, and they're really transparent, and they have a lot of help. So if you hit a bump in the road, you can also, this is also a great opportunity for you guys to reach out to your mentor and use their knowledge, not necessarily us. You don't have to ask us everything. You can reach out to your mentor and say, hey, I'm setting up my Square account. Do you use Square? Can you help me? And that's what they're there for. So, think about that. So a couple of things, you want to have your inventory entered before the event, so it's already in your Square account and all the prices. So the convention center does not have free Wi-Fi. You're going to be, if you're using Square on your smartphone, it's super easy. It does not use up a lot of data. That is what almost all of our vendors do. Handmade Arcade Wi-Fi is really expensive. It's like $80 a day for one login. So we are going to try our best to not set up a Wi-Fi hotspot. But if you have concerns about data, or you have concerns about that, like, again, we're here to work with you on it. So just like make sure you just make us aware of any barriers that these might be throwing up to you to have a successful day, and we will help you with that. I'm pretty sure with Square, and I put this in there thinking that this is the case, but you guys can tell me, Val or Sam, if I'm wrong. I think you can have more than one person signed into your account at once. So like you can be at your table with your smartphone and your Square card reader on one side of your table, and then your helper could have their phone and another Square card reader. Like, you know, on either side, you can both be doing transactions at the same time. So that's another thing that's really great about it. And if you're planning on using your cell phone, which you should for this, make sure you have a way to charge it. We'll have extra, you will be able to charge it up at the welcome station, at the welcome table. We'll have we'll have plugs up there. But if you have one of those external battery chargers, charge it up and take it with you. I've never had an issue with my phone, my battery running out at Handmade Arcade, but I'm also not addicted to social media in the way that you young folks are. And I know my daughters, it seems like their phones are always at 1% because they are constantly on their phones. But hopefully you will be so busy at Handmade Arcade that you won't have time to be watching any TikToks or whatever the heck it is you young whippersnappers do on your phones. So just make sure you've got like a backup. If you don't have a battery charger, make sure you bring your charger with you because you can charge it at the welcome station. Okay, PayPal, you can do PayPal. It's similar to Square. It allows you to have a QR code for ease of payment. So people can just scan. I don't know a lot about PayPal, and but I do know they now have a point of sale system called PayPal Zettle that seems like it has an inventory system that's similar to Square. I'm going to tell you full disclosure. About 6 or 7 years ago, Handmade Arcade we had a lot of trouble with PayPal, and so we don't use it. From my viewpoint, I think Square is a better, in many ways, and more user friendly, and their customer service is better. But if you already have PayPal set up, or somebody who's willing to like help you with credit card, already has PayPal set up and they want to use that, you can definitely use it. I just don't. I think that Square is a better choice. So I don't know if anybody else on the planning committee has any other like info that you know about taking credit cards through PayPal at events.
I only use it on my website. I don't use it in person. I use Square in person, but PayPal's an option on my website, and people do use it, but they don't use it as often as the other methods of payment. So.
Yeah, I think PayPal on your website totally makes sense because that's easier. It's just because it's connected. But for an in-person event, I think it's a little more difficult. So you can also use Venmo. That you need to, here it tells you like you can pay people, from your Venmo balance, from a credit or debit card or a bank account. And then so those are the requirements to using Venmo. You have to be located in the United States. You have to have a cell phone that can send or receive text messages for short codes. And you must be at least 18 years old. So I guess what you would do for the Venmo is that you would have I'll show you, I'm gonna go. So this is an example of a maker who did not have a credit card reader. She didn't have a Square account at our spring event, but she did have a Venmo QR code. So she would say to, when someone purchased earrings from her, she would be like, that's $40. And they scanned her Venmo QR code and then immediately Venmoed her $40. So you can do it that way. That's absolutely fine. This, I have no idea what that is. If that is a PayPal QR code, that might be a PayPal QR code that people might be able to send to. No, that's dumb. She has her PayPal down here. So she could say, you can pay me via PayPal, email, then you would email it this. I'm not sure what this is. Maybe this is Apple Pay. I'm not sure. I don't know what that I feel like I should know what that logo is, but I don't. But like this is another option to have QR codes at your table to scan. And Venmo allows you to set up QR codes, and PayPal also I think allows you to set up a QR code. I don't know if Square does, but that you run their credit card through Square.
Hey Trisha,
yeah.
I just wanted to mention that I did set up a Venmo at the last thing and had a lot of issues with the QR code. So if you do that, you'll want to make sure to test it ahead of time. And they will send you the QR codes that you can put on little stickers and everything if you register in advance, but you will want to double check those.
That's good to know, because I am I don't like, this is not something that I was going to share, but now that you brought that up, I'm going to share. I am I am like QR code unfriendly, I think is the word. I don't know if it's my age or I have an Android phone. I don't have an iPhone, and QR codes don't work as well for me. And I don't know if it's like user error, which is entirely possible because I'm not like some of this newer tech stuff, even though QR codes have been around a while, I'm just like, but I find that I have trouble with QR codes, and I think a lot of it has to do with my Android phone. And remember, the more people, it's hard to believe based on marketing, but more people have Android phones than iPhones. So you want to consider that when we talk about our next thing, Apple Pay. You can set up Apple Pay, and it's already on your phone if you have an iPhone. But the only thing about that is that you're only going to be able to take money from other people with iPhones, and you're going to be excluding a lot of Android users. And I've actually had this complaint before because there's a maker who made these really cool wooden cell phone cases, and he only made them for iPhones. And I can't tell you how many people had told me that year, those were so cool. Too bad I didn't make them for Androids. And then I told him that, and he's like, yeah, I'm really kicking myself because I can't tell you how many people came to my booth and said, oh yeah, those are really cool. Too bad you don't make them for Android. So think about that if you want to use Apple Pay. And finally, this is just an example of like what Morgan did, because she did not have a Square reader. She had these on her table so that she could take payments. But I really think your best bet is to set up a Square account. Oh, and I don't know if I said this already. Did I say if you don't have access to it, we'll help you take credit cards? Yes, I already said that. I already talked about that. And finally, like pricing, when you're calculating the costs for your items, you want to make sure that you're paying yourself and you're not underselling yourself. So like, kind of keep track of how much it costs to make everything that you're making, and then keep track of your time, and then your cost plus your time should equal your item cost. So like, let's say everything that it costs you to make your sock stuffed animal, everything it took, like, to make one, you figured out, you broke it down, you did the math, and you figured out each one cost you like $2.74 to make. And then you want to pay yourself at least $6 an hour or whatever. I'm just making up numbers. So then you're like, okay, so that's like, it cost me $9, we'll round up, to make this item. So then you just want to times it by 2. Like, and that's just like a really simple calculator for it. So, and also like, like when you say you want to pay yourself like $8 an hour, keep in mind that in an hour you might be able to make, like 20 some of these things. So like, you just want to sort of like figure out like your sweet spot. You don't want to charge too much. You don't want to undersell yourself. Now this is going to be hard for you guys because you're young and you're inexperienced. But so what I would recommend is going around, getting on Etsy, looking around at people who make similar products from you, and just checking out what their price points are. Just like, don't also like, if somebody comes up to you and says, oh, this is $15, don't be like, just be like, yeah, it's $15. Like, that's what it is. Like, don't be like, oh yeah, no, would you like, you could, like, don't negotiate, don't downplay it. You made that, you put the price on it, that's what it costs. If somebody's like, well, what if I want to give you $10 for it? And you're like, well, it's $15. So like, cause that, like, people sometimes think that these craft fairs they can bargain. Don't do it. Just be like, oh, well, no, it's $15. So stick to it. And again, this is something with your mentors, like a really important thing, like with your mentors, to decide about pricing. They can help you with that. And also if you are on the Facebook page group, you can ask our professional maker community for advice. Okay, so this is like something that I'm going to throw out there, but I don't really want you guys to like stress about it too much, because this could maybe get me in trouble with the IRS. I don't know. But chances are, aside from maybe Jasmine, who sells a lot every weekend, all year long, the chances are that you are going to make enough money to trigger a payment for the IRS is low. Like, you have to make so much money to have to worry about that. But people are going to ask you about taxes. And so like, you want to have even prices. You don't want to be like, okay, so that's $20, and then you have to add the tax to it. So if someone comes up to you and says, how much does this cost? and you say $20 and they say, well, what about taxes? Are you paying taxes? You just say, well, I've already calculated the tax into the price. And there's an easy way to do that with, if you're using Square, it's called decalculating sales tax. I don't think you guys really need to worry about that too much, but like, I just wanted to put it out there. If you do sell over a certain amount of money, and it's like thousands of dollars, then you will have to pay sales tax. But I'm like I am like 99.99999% certain that none of you are going to hit that number, except for maybe Jasmine, but that's only because she sells it shows all year long. So again, don't barter. You worked hard for this. That's the price. That's the price. Have your items clearly marked, and don't let anybody's negativity bring you down. People have opinions. They like to share them. Don't let it in. They can take their toxic nonsense to the next booth. You just keep on smiling and keep on selling, because you know you've worked hard and you know you're worth what you're doing. And that's it. I'm going to stop my screen share. It's exactly noon. How well timed am I? Does anybody have any questions? I'm going to share this. I'm going to share these slides with you all. I'm going to share the maker checklists with you all. And really, basically, your assignment between now and the next meeting is to make. I want like an update of what you've done, what you have ready. Definitely get your credit card stuff set up if you don't have that already, because it takes longer than you think. If you wait until like the Monday before, you might not have it ready by Saturday. So like I would start on that like ASAP. Just to be safe. And then you have time to test it, and you have time to like, get your inventory in there and think about your prices and that sorts of things. So yeah, does anybody have any questions?
I know my realm is mostly jewelry, but because of my job at the Artsmiths, I do work with other artists on how to price their work. So if your mentor is out of town or you're really just stuck, please send me an email or ask Trisha to get a hold of me. And I'm happy to talk with any of you and make sure that you guys are all where you want to be before we get there.
Thank you, Sam. So if you guys look at the email that I sent out for this meeting, it's Samantha@lusterpgh.com. She's CC'd on the email, so you can just email her directly if you have questions. I think she's a great resource, because she does work with, every single one of you makes a product that is like, she can help you price because of her job at the Artsmiths. So
and if any of you want to reach out about booth displays, setups, ways to think, I feel like I love that aspect of it. So I'm willing to help any of you on ideas or where to gather materials, or looking around your house to figure out how it might work with your display. Totally fine with that.
And Val's email is simonsgranddaughter@aol.com on the email list. So yeah, do your best to reach out to other people, because like from now until the end of the year, I can't answer emails as fast as I'd like to. It's impossible. So use your other resources. If you want to CC me on it, like if you want to email Val, Sam, and me, that's totally cool. If I have time to answer before them, I will. But I definitely am not the expert on pricing. That Sam is your go-to gal for that. And yeah, so I'm gonna count to 10 inside my head, and if nobody else has any more questions, I'm gonna say goodbye. I'm gonna make it awkward though. I hope you guys walk away from this experience having had a lot of fun, because that's all. I want you to make money. I want you to have fun. I want you to be like, Trisha from Handmade Arcade is nuts, but fun and helpful. That is the takeaway I want you guys to have, because that is, I just think that the world right now is a tough place to be. And I think you guys are amazing and creative. And I want this to be the best experience it can for you and uplift you in ways that I think everybody needs right now. So we will see you in a month. Check in with if your mentors don't get back to you, let me know and I will poke them. And you reach out, like I said, to more than one of us. You can include Michelle and Lindsay on those emails too, because they definitely have lots of experience. So if you want to send an email to all of the committee members and just be throw you know, like throw a piece of spaghetti at the wall and see who answers or what sticks. What's that expression? I don't know. I just made that up. So you can go ahead and do that. So, all right, everybody, go enjoy the rest of this awful, horrible, rainy day. Hopefully you can find make something fun or do something fun. And we'll talk soon. Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.